Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. I am Arvise Washington, the Deputy Director for the Department of Navy's Office of Small Business Programs. Welcome to our webinar series where we will be hosting a number of webinars on various topics throughout the summer. I would like to direct you to our website at secnav.navy.mil/small-business, where you can find a wealth of information, including our Department of Navy Small Business Program Operations Plan. You can locate your small business professional and find information on how to do business with the Department of Navy, including our long-range acquisition forecast. To learn more about upcoming events, you can connect with us on social media, including Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube platforms. Please join us for our upcoming webinar that we will have on the 25th of June, featuring the Deputy Director for the Department of Defense, Office of Small Business Programs, Mr. Shannon Jackson, where he will talk about the DoD Cybersecurity Initiative Project Spectrum. So today we have the Small Business Director from the Naval Supply Systems Command, Mr. Chris Espanshade, and two panelists that he will have with him. I'll turn it over to you, Chris, and thank you all for joining today.
All right, thank you, Ms. Washington, and thank you everyone for signing in and hopefully learning more about NAVSUP and how we're attacking COVID-19 concerns with the supply chain. With me, honored to have Ms. Fenstermacher, who is the Director for Strategic Initiatives at NAVSUP Weapons Systems Support. And also, hopefully, Captain Gene Cash, the Commanding Officer for NAVSUP Business Systems Command. We may not be able to have him on due to some technical difficulties, but that's all right. We'll just continue to push through. So a little bit about NAVSUP. Naval Supply Systems Command is the Echelon 2 command that supports quality of life, supplies services for the joint warfighter and the Navy. We manage supply chains that provide the material for naval aircraft, surface ships, submarines, and their associated weapon systems. Additionally, we're most notably known for centralized inventory management for the Navy's non-nuclear systems and non-nuclear ordnance stockpile. Along with that mission, we operate a wide range of base operating and waterfront logistics support services that coordinate, again, quality of life, and we contract for supplies and services for that material management and warehousing responsibility. From a command standpoint and how we operate with the small business programs, I'm headquartered at Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania at NAVSUP headquarters, but we are a worldwide enterprise that functions out of 11 major commands, which includes NAVSUP Fleet Logistics Centers. We have 8 of those positioned around the world, major fleet concentration sites such as FLC Norfolk, FLC Jacksonville, FLC Pearl Harbor, FLC San Diego, FLC Puget Sound, as well as Oconus, FLC Sigonella, Yokosuka, and Bahrain. From a NAVSUP procurement standpoint, we execute approximately 40% of the Navy's actions. We have a wide range portfolio of NAVSUP contracting actions in which we execute around $7.7 billion on behalf of the Navy. 1.9 billion of that goes towards small business. So a lot of that is about 60% services spend, 40% supply spend. From a structural standpoint, the Office of Small Business Programs at NAVSUP has 21 dedicated professionals at all of our major buying commands that support that buying command's mission, oversee execution of their contracting authority. And that includes NAVSUP Weapons Systems Support, the 8 FLCs that I mentioned before, as well as major buying commands in which NAVSUP delegates authority to, such as Navy Medical Logistics Command, Naval Oceanographic Office, and NEXCOM that has over 300 storefronts that support the sailor. Some things to note about NAVSUP, about our top 5 NAICS codes that we execute under is 541330, which is engineering services. About $350 million goes towards that. And then also 62 general medical and surgical supplies, hospital support services, miscellaneous manufacturing that again supports on our NAVSUP weapon system support side. And then a wide range of consulting services that we execute on behalf of external customers. Some interesting facts about NAVSUP is that we delegate procurement authority out to any major Navy buying command that doesn't have authority itself to operate. So that includes over 600 commands that execute NAVSUP's authority to procure, including purchase card authority. So we have a wide breadth of customers who utilize NAVSUP's procurement authority. So a little bit more about NAVSUP. I'm not sure if we have Miss Captain Cash on yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, that's fine. So again, major responsibilities for NAVSUP are quality of life and supporting external customers. So quality of life, postal, hazmat, any additional quality of life shipboard or waterfront, NAVSUP is in support of, which includes NAVSUP Business Systems Command, who oversees the execution of sustainment of Navy, of a wide range of Navy IT service and supply type of software. Let's see here. Some things about doing business with NAVSUP. I get a lot of questions about, hey, you know, I'm an 8A that's looking to support NAVSUP consulting services. Again, I got to direct it to, we display everything in accordance with FAR, DFARS, NMCARS regulations on NICO as point of entry and also Beta SAM. So one of the first things I suggest is if you're interested in one of those requirements that you contact the small business representative that is for that buying command. And you can find that, if I can share it here, let me pull up the new NAVSUP webpage. So we just recently launched the NAVSUP webpage here that I think you'll find a lot more useful. So you can go through, learn a little bit more about NAVSUP as a command, you know, understand our mission, which again is to share sustained global logistics and quality of life to the Navy and the joint warfighter. There's a message here that I put up that discusses NAVSUP's small business strategy, which again is and highlight the importance of building partnerships with customers and the small business office so that we can provide quality product to our customers at a great price and improve the economic advantage that small business and competition provides. You know, optimizing communications between industry and our customers and our procurement office, and then improving participation at both the prime and subcontract level, which is extremely important to make sure that at the subcontracting level, we're getting just as much competition as we do at the prime level. So again, I suggest you go through there. If you simplest way is to get on Google, just search NAVSUP buying opportunities, and that'll take you to the website. The other thing here is if you want to find out more about NAVSUP's small business procurement representatives, you can go through here and click on this website link here that shows interactive map. Per state, it'll show you, I'll load here. There we go. So for example, if you click on Pennsylvania, you'll see my information here at headquarters and some of my small business representatives at NAVSUP Weapon Systems Support and FLC Norfolk. So, you know, you can check that out. Most importantly, understanding what we buy. So you can go down through here. We have all the procurement data from FY16 through 19. by NAICS code. You can search through there and see what type of requirements are best suited for your company and your strong points. And then also our long-range acquisition forecast. We have all that information up there for you to see what's coming up as far as future requirements. So with that, I don't think that we have Captain Cash on yet. So I'll hand it off to Ms. Fenstermacher, who can discuss more about what NAVSUP's doing to protect the supply chain and grow the supply chain. So Ms. Fenstermacher, if you're ready, go ahead.
Before
I'm ready. Oh,
I apologize, ma'am. Before we do that, we do have an area in the recording where you can ask questions and answers. So I do see we have a question in the chat. We will be recording those questions. Chris will filter them and ask them accordingly, okay?
Not a problem. Thank
Ma'am,
you.
I apologize. See the chat. Over to you, ma'am.
okay. Thank you so much. And thank you, Chris, for the introduction. Again, my name is Karen Fenstermacher. I'm the Executive for Strategic Initiatives at Naval Supply Systems Command, working in the headquarters with Chris Espanshade there in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. I'm going to provide a little bit of context as background before I get into some of the efforts that we've had underway here, particularly over the last couple of months relative to the COVID crisis. As a matter of context, we began in Naval Supply Systems Command a strategic supplier management effort about 18 months ago. I rejoined Naval Supply Systems Command at that time and established a framework kind of dissecting our entire portfolio, which includes about 980 suppliers, both large and small, and analyzed from a readiness and from a dollar value impact, who are the most strategic suppliers and most impactful to naval readiness. And so in dissecting that, we landed on top 10 suppliers, certainly a significant amount of dollars. No one would be surprised at who's in the portfolio. And from that, determined depth of activity with those particular organizations, the types of things that we wanted to strategically partner around, those types of issues more tactically that we needed to get after, some of the challenges perhaps that we needed to work with our strategic suppliers on to improve the delivery and the sustainability of our platforms. As Chris mentioned, Naval Supply Systems Command, and what I'm specifically talking about is the supply side of the business, not the services and consulting side. The supply side focused particularly on sustaining surface, subsurface, as well as aviation platforms. So this is the whole aftermarket spares and repairs business that I'm talking about. And so a lot of complications, a lot of challenges relative to obsolescence across both the maritime and aviation communities. And so, a significant amount of effort we thought would be beneficial in partnering more consistently with those strategic suppliers. And the framework is not tremendously hyper complex, right? It's really all about communication and all about partnership and understanding the challenges oftentimes that we present. Sometimes we're not the best partner. And so how then can we work through those things? And, talking about things like joint forecasting, where to pursue best for benefit additive manufacturing, to name a couple of examples that we often speak to our strategic partners about. Now, fast forward to the March timeframe, and what we determined as we became more understanding of the crisis that COVID would present across our supply chain, I embarked on an effort to assess the supply chain health writ large across the portfolio of suppliers that NAVSUP works with. As I mentioned earlier, about 980 suppliers, both large and small businesses alike, supporting the maritime and aviation community. And what we did as a team, and I have a small team of 8 folks, supplier relationship managers, that helped me devise a very specific framework, as I said, to assess supply chain health as we all collectively traversed the COVID crisis. And so what that involved as a cornerstone was, beginning back in the March timeframe, a weekly survey out to each and every one of our supplier partners. And we surveyed across 12 dimensions at that time, trying to get more insight into the specific impacts of COVID, attendance as an example, who from a touch labor perspective was going to be impacted so that we could assess any delays or disruptions to deliveries. Were they having transportation issues? Were they having issues with appropriate documentation to support their mission essentiality? As this began, we all recognize that a number of regions quickly locked down, and that documentation as part of the mission essential defense industrial base became very, very important. We assessed as we went through the process as another dimension if there was extra capacity, recognizing particularly on the aviation side, the downturn in aerospace may create additional capacity that we could take advantage of, quite honestly, and in turn expedite deliveries, expedite payments to our suppliers to help them through the crisis from a financial perspective. So there were 12 dimensions in all that we monitored, as I said, on a weekly basis. We're currently in our 14th week of monitoring the health of the supply chain. And, you know, as I look back on that, at one point we hit a high watermark of 48 closures across the continental US as well as in Europe. And understanding and assessing the impact, on average, those closures were between 10 and 14 days, largely for cleaning, as well as setup of safety measures to ensure their employees' health and safety throughout the pandemic. And so we worked through and assessed that information, as I said, understanding and drilling into platform-specific impacts and what it is that we could do, most importantly, from a Naval Supply Systems Command perspective, to assist those suppliers in need. And so through the survey, as an example, transportation issues became quite prevalent. And so we worked through the details of what those issues were, what could we do on our side, particularly if there was international transportation involved. That became very complex very quickly. And so we worked through supplier by supplier to help them obviously deliver the information or deliver the items, and in turn receive payment. As I said, the Defense Industrial Base Mission Essential Letter was a very important document, and unfortunately the promulgation of that down to every one of our suppliers was not as seamless as we would have hoped. And so we did a tremendous amount of work to ensure that every supplier that was in need of that documentation received it. In addition, I probably and my team spoke to a large majority of the 980 suppliers from CEO level down to understand the challenges that they were facing. Our commitment from a Naval Supply Systems Command perspective was, whether large or small, that our intention was to do everything that we could to ensure that everyone that came into the crisis with us as a supplier to our very important mission for naval readiness was able to come out the other side. And so many of the conversations that I had with CEOs, COOs of these organizations were about financial distress. You know, what is it that we could do to accelerate payments? You know, of course, the ASN for Research and Development, Mr. Hondo Gertz, did a tremendous amount in accelerating, in increasing progress payments. So it was those types of conversations that we were working through to ensure that we aligned those who were in need with the right individuals to gain access to what would help them successfully traverse the crisis. And so it was a tremendously eye-opening for me because, as I said at the start of this, my focus was on the largest of our suppliers, those candidly that we spent the most dollars with. But it was a quick process for me as I work through even just the first couple of weeks in widening my aperture for how important every supplier is, but certainly how critical even the most small supplier is, and what they provide to naval readiness and to Naval Supply Systems Command. And so what we've devised as we look ahead, and I will tell you that one of the things that came through loud and clear was the resiliency of the supply chain writ large. As I said, in most cases, the average closure was about 10 to 14 days, and the sense of urgency as they ramped back up was very clear. A tremendous dedication and commitment to the mission of supporting the warfighter, which was just quite honestly eye-watering to see and to be a part of. And so as we continue to work through it, what we're at now, kind of looking back, as I said, to that high water mark of 48 closures, we currently have one that has remained closed for a couple of weeks. They had a couple of fairly recent COVID cases. And so, we've come a long way. And as I said, have seen that resilience in the supply chain writ large. For us, as we look ahead here, working through the transition this summer, and then of course looking to the fall timeframe as to whether or not we see upticks in COVID cases, and if there's going to be a second wave, as many of us hear on the news. How do we posture ourselves? And so what we've done is moved from a weekly survey now to a bi-weekly. And one of the questions that we asked of our supply base at one point a couple of weeks ago was whether or not they thought the survey was helpful. And if we continued it, would they continue to provide us feedback? Of course, we'll iterate on the dimensions of the survey that we're looking to receive information around. And 61% indicated that they absolutely wanted to continue the communication, that they really appreciated the outreach, the continued communication, the availability and access of myself and other members of my team to assist them. And we recognize that perhaps we've come over the peak of the pandemic, but the aftershocks are going to be felt for some time. And so continuing to maintain that outreach and continuing to maintain that commitment that everybody that came into the crisis comes out of the crisis with us to support naval readiness continues to be our key focus. And so hopefully that provides everybody with an understanding and an insight into how it is that we pulsed the supply chain over the last couple of months, and how it is that we'll continue to do so and stay in communication with both our large and small suppliers who support and provide a significant amount of critical deliveries to support our mission. So I appreciate the time and certainly look forward to any questions or comments that anyone here in the virtual event may have for me. Chris, back over to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Fensmacher. And that, just to note, Ms. Fensmacher's team has worked exceptionally well with making sure that we take care of our small business suppliers. And anytime we've had a survey response that's said, hey, I'm in urgent need of closing up shop or something to that effect, we've worked collaboratively to make sure that the resources are provided to them. So if you do, NAVSUP work or DON work, I highly suggest you contact your small business, local small business representative to see what resources are available, both on the federal level, but also on the state level. I'm not sure if we have Captain Cash on yet. So what I'll do is I'll give a brief overview of Business Systems Command. So again, NAVSUP Business Systems Command really started back in the 60s, evolving into what is a lot of modern day solutions were kind of based out of NAVSUP. Again, their headquarters is in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania as well, on the same base as NAVSUP headquarters and also NAVSUP Weapon System Supply mech. So again, their emphasis is on sustaining logistics and financial related products and services for those software designed basis. So getting additional Navy customers into Navy ERP, ensuring financial compliance is obviously their main focus currently. But they also, again, sustain and maintain various shipboard systems and logistics functional systems that are used for the Navy for compliance and moving, transporting goods for the Navy supply system. I think we have one question here and something I need to touch on. So we have a question, how about doing business with NAVSUP overseas for any support for U.S. mission and the supply chain? So one of the unique things is, so FLC Bahrain, FLC Sigonella, those are actually all serviced from a small business standpoint out of our FLC Norfolk small business office. So I have two individuals there that support Mr. Chris Pless and Mr. Paul Staley. Those are both the small business representatives that would handle any interest in doing requirements with NAVSUP, FLC Bahrain or Sigonella, and you can find them on the website. And then on FLC in FLC Yokosuka or any other OCONUS on the West Coast, the PAC side, out to FLC Puget Sound, SBP, Mr. Sean Hong. So we have Hayden Hu out at FLC Pearl Harbor, who also supports some of that mission as well. So again, I highly suggest that you reach out to them, make yourself known, and provide them details on what NAVSUP requirements that you're interested in. As far as Business Systems Command, so again, Captain Cash oversees the command that is very interested in ensuring that, as far as COVID-19, we illuminate those concerns that may have an impact to the Navy's mission in terms of, again, quality of life and supply systems insight into any issues related to supplier management. One of the other things I didn't know previously is, on the services side, I also track on a weekly basis that's provided to the chief any impact that we've seen as far as COVID-related effects to service type requirements that both impact any critical mission as well as the vendor, and trying to mitigate any financial hardships that occur there. I'm not sure if, do we have any other questions? Let's see here. Can you please talk a bit about your IT systems and what kind of requirements are there? So as far as BSC's portfolio, there still is a little bit what we call Navy ERP sustainment support. A lot of that has shifted back to NAVWAR, so NAVWAR will be taking over that supporting role. But as far as any other supply systems, such as ordnance supply or any reform efforts that we currently have ongoing, those would be supported out of Business Systems Command, which the contracting office is Fleet Logistics Center in Norfolk. So you'll see any consulting or support type of requirements come out of that office. And let's see here. What about those who provide services and not products, for example? Okay, subject matter expert in countering WMDs, chemical bio. So that would be more of an Office of Naval Research type of requirement, where they're looking for that specific of a consulting type of requirement. You can also see similar type requirements that may come out of Naval Sea Systems Command, RV. So I'm not sure if you have any other
Yes.
suggestions.
So what I would like to add is if you visit the Department of Navy's Office of Small Business Programs website, we have a feature on there called Search What the Don Buys. It's at the top. It's a data download from FPDS. And what we've done is we've filtered it, we've sorted it by product service code or NAICS code. So if you know what your NAICS code is, or you know what your product service code is, you can go in and you can filter on this spreadsheet that will show what commands is actually procuring what it is that you're selling. So I would say start there. Once you figure out what the command is, then you can go back on the main page on the Small Business Programs website. There's a map at the bottom of the page. On that map, you can click on that facility and find that small business professional there. And that's why I encourage you to leverage that point of contact as your entry point to that organization. Thank you, Chris.
Not a problem. Am I breaking up a little bit still? I know there was some feedback here.
You are good to go, sir.
All right. So we got a question. So please share a link or website. The voice is breaking up. I cannot catch the answer. I'm not sure if that was in relation to Miss Washington, but simply go on to Google, search Department of Navy, Office of Small Business Programs. As Miss Washington had stated, all of the buying data that you can either find from Federal Procurement Data System or on the Department of Navy website, you can find there for all the buying commands, and you can find NAVSUP's procurement data on NAVSUP's small business website, which is NAVSUP Business Opportunities.
So can I add one more thing, Chris? I apologize. In researching what organization is best for you to do business with, what I just spoke about is what I would call the rear-facing view. So these are actual contracts that have been awarded, activities that are buying whatever service or product it is that you're selling. That forward-looking view would be the long-range acquisition forecast. So we also have on our website where we've captured data from each of our buying commands, a consolidated list, and it is a very long encompassing list of what the future procurements are for each of these commands. You can take that list and then you can go to the command's individual website and see the particular Excel spreadsheet that's listed for that command for their upcoming procurements, their LRAFs. So that's all I have, Chris. Thank you.
Not a problem. And there was a question about contact information available to attendees. So you can contact me. Let me see if I can put up my contact information here. You can contact me here at my my email address is loaded on here. This is a little bit more about NAVSUP, and our small business website is below here on the left-hand side. So sure, we will put that up, as well as you can find that information on Department of Navy's website or on NAVSUP's website. And again, I only ask if you're interested in NAVSUP, please let me know what specific requirements you're interested in that NAVSUP buys. And again, if you're looking to see what command is best for your company, I would suggest that you go down through the procurement data, and there's plenty of resources to research that on there. Captain Cash, we have you on. Okay, let's see here.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you, sir. So again, Captain Eugene Cash, Commanding Officer for NAVSUP Business Command. He'll tell you a little bit about BSC's mission, their responsibilities, and way ahead. Thank you, Captain.
All right. Hey, thanks. Sorry I'm late. Kind of ironic, the commanding officer of business systems having IT challenges joining a Zoom Gov webinar, but it happens to me too. So my name's Captain Gene Cash. I'm the commanding officer of Business Systems Center. We're an Echelon 3 command, part of the NAVSUP enterprise. I got our mission statement right here, which I won't read word for word because it's more boring than maybe what I'll embellish. But in general, we want to deliver IT and technical solutions, applications, focusing on business and financial systems to the NAVSUP enterprise, Department of Defense, Department of Navy, and even some foreign military customers like the Royal Saudi Navy. So that's our general mission statement. We have a variety of departments that focus on logistics solutions, NAVSUP specific applications, specific technology services, data analytics department with services there. A big part too, ERP support. We have the Enterprise Business Office, and then a Tier 3 level of support that supports PMW 220 from NAVWAR and the sustainment operations of Navy ERP. So that's our command in a nutshell. Bringing it up a level, I would say our general mission too is to enable the Navy supply chain through technology solutions and business system solutions. And the goal there is to make sure we ultimately support Navy readiness through technology solutions. So my charter to the team at NAVSUP Business System Center is deliver the IT capability that's going to enable the Navy supply chain while also supporting our other DON, DoD customers as well. So as you probably have heard or know, the Navy's all about readiness. Technology can really help enable that mission of readiness. And my goal as commanding officer is to support Navy readiness through technology services, through a host of NAVSUP applications that we have, most of them in sustainment operations right now. Some new developments, some enhancements. I'd say we're looking at DevSecOps as a key enabler to be more agile, to develop the IT products and services to support the Navy and the Navy supply chain. Our data analytics department is playing key roles in looking at helping to enable that cradle to grave supply chain. You know, the cradle starts when a new weapon system is being envisioned by a program office, either at NAVSEA, NAVAIR, and then it ends with the ultimate disposal to DLA disposition services. So we want to be involved in supporting that entire supply chain to help figure out, well, what do we need to buy and how do we need to sustain this weapon system, to how do we sustain it during operations and support, and then ultimately what's the right choices to make as we sunset the system and move on to something else. So that's the general focus for my command. You know, I also sum things up very simply to the team, and that's to deliver IT capability faster so that we can get from that requirement statement or that vision statement of what we're going to do to support the Navy and the supply chain to deployment and sustainment quicker. So we're not taking any kind of long waterfall approach where it's months to even years to develop a capability or enhance a capability. We want to get that flash to bang as fast as possible. So I'll pause there, Chris, for questions, comments, or just follow-ups there. Over.
Thank you, Captain. We have a few questions, kind of more along the lines of discussions on, you know, upcoming areas where there may be opportunities for more industry to become engaged with some of your software solutions as it relates to food services or retail operations.
Yeah, I think let me repeat back what I think I heard. You're coming in a little garbled. It could be the connection. Yeah, I think you're asking where are the opportunities for industry to be more involved with our supply chain solutions, food service, retail, things of that nature, directly support operations.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you, as an industry provider or partner, can help us deliver that IT capability faster, great. Be there and join the team. You know, the government has a lot of rules. if we were a private sector company, it would be, we have this need, we grab a team, we throw them together, they do probably some type of rapid prototyping agile approach, and we get some kind of initial capability, hopefully in weeks, that helps enable the business. We're trying to get there with agile methodologies, with the DoD's DevSecOps methodology, but if you can weigh into solutions that will help provide solutions to the fleet and to our overall readiness supply chain. And it could be on the weapon system side, whether it be buying parts, figuring out how to predict what we need to buy and how many. On the weapon system support side, that's a major mission area for us. I would say there's opportunities there for industry. I did hear that at the beginning of the webinar via phone. I heard Chris talking about 8As and all that. So 8As are probably a good methodology, not being a contracting guy, but just from experience, getting in the door or partnering with an 8A partner or getting on a GSA schedule, or basically cracking the rules and the challenges of DoD contracting to get in there. So yeah, I see a note here, he's breaking up, and yeah, when I hear from Chris, it's picking up too, so I apologize. I'll try to talk a little slower. Another area, there's a NAVSUP suite of applications that NAVWAR is working on. I imagine DSC will have some role in helping and sustaining that suite of applications at some point. So if you can help with that product or that suite of products, that will be the afloat kind of retail level logistics solutions for the fleet when it ultimately deploys. So if you can help in that area, that would be a great opportunity there. We are playing a supporting role with applications like FSM, food service management, ROM, retail operations management, and even our supply, which those are the legacy or current applications today, but ultimately those are run and supported through NAVWAR and one of their program offices. Going forward, my thought and goal would be it's logical for Business Systems Center, being a NAVSUP enterprise provider, to play a role in any kind of future development, design, or at least at some point sustainment of those applications.
All right, thank you, sir. Yeah, I think it's much clearer once we have only one person on video. So there's some questions in regards to, best way to engage with you and your team about IoT equipment perspective. So I don't know if you can talk to that. I can talk to it from a procurement standpoint, but.
So best ways for, basically, it sounds like best ways to get in the door with our organization.
Yes, sir. So again, the question is best way to engage with you and your team from an IoT equipment perspective, and do you envision any AI capabilities going forward?
So, okay, so yes. So I'll be completely open. I get a lot of cold calls. Well, maybe not so much now because I'm working more from home. But in general, we get a lot of people reaching out to us through LinkedIn, through just finding my office number, and so forth. I direct a lot of those to our executive director, Mr. Brian Zerbel, and say, is this a worthwhile endeavor? Occasionally, I'll take some of those and hear you out. But no offense to any of our industry partners, I could probably spend all day, every day, just talking to industry partners about what their service providers are. I think you, Chris, are a good way to a good entry point, into the NAVSUP enterprise and specifically into the IT development shop there. I'd say making sure you're an 8A partner and getting involved there is a good way to get through some of the contracting challenges. So Let me address the next portion of the question, which was AIT. We have a very big AIT. I think it was AIT, or it might have been AI, but I'll talk AIT, then I'll talk AI. So AIT at NAVSUP headquarters, N2 and 6 staff, where I used to work. We have a gentleman, Mr. Hal Casey, division director, runs all the AIT work or leads the AIT work for the NAVSUP enterprise. He is the best probably point of contact to go to say, I can help with your AIT solutions, Internet of Things solutions. He's well down the road there. We had a RFID pilot project that we were doing at a couple locations. We procured a couple of robots that do autonomous inventorying using AIT and RFID technology that we were doing a pilot until COVID hit and we had to stop that program down. That may be restarting as things start to open up. But in general, I'll talk audit real quick. AIT and Internet of Things is probably an essential enabling technology for us to get to audit because we have a mandate to keep track of our stuff. And we have a lot of stuff everywhere. And we've never been as focused as we are today with keeping track of that material. So if we can RFID tag everything that we care about, or it's auditable, or maybe based on a certain dollar threshold or mission criticality, we want to put a very robust RFID tag on there that's maybe in the 50-cent range to up to $1 that you can rewrite on. Then we need to do that because it's pretty much unsustainable to expect people with clipboards and spreadsheets to go around and count this stuff year after year to meet the requirements of our auditors. So we need technology to do that rapidly and near a real-time virtual requirement, or autonomously every night, and then ultimately feed it to our accountable property system of record, maybe ERP, so that we know what our book to floor order book is. So big AIT push there. I believe leadership feels like that could be a solution once we get it robust enough to help. So if you can help in that area, great. Mr. Hal Casey's a great point of contact, works out in Norfolk, but he's part of the NAVSUP enterprise too. Formal first name is Harold, and it should be hard to find, or I can provide contact information. For AI, we are starting to dabble in AI using RPAs, robotic process automation, and we have an RPA team at BSC that is working to develop attended and unattended bots. And we're having some good success with the bots, mostly on the attended side. We have to be considerate of Navy's IA and IA security requirements. So right now, it does not appear an unattended bot is going to be approved or accepted by our certifying organizations, just because they're going to require a human in the loop to kind of keep track of that technology when it runs. But we're looking to grow that team, expand it, get to a point where we have team members who can generate their own like self-service RPA and say, hey, I do this fairly monotonous, repetitive task, maybe a little non-value added. Can I get a bot or develop a bot as a self-service opportunity to do that work for me, reduce the error rate, and obviously do the work faster. So I'll stop there for additional questions or comments.
Thank you, Captain. So there was a few questions in relation to best way to contact to find out more about forecasted opportunities. So again, just to reiterate, please go to NAVSUP Business Opportunities website, where you can find the long-range forecast, where there will be all the known business BSC requirements that will be in there for data analytics and mobility requirements. There was a question here in regards to do the majority of your requirements require security clearances in order to provide the service?
So if you're going to be a contractor or a service provider that comes in and works with the government, either on site or has access to our systems, then yes, there's going to be some kind of security clearance process. So if you're a foreign national or non-US citizen working here, that's going to be probably a challenge to get access to our systems and to do that work.
Okay. And then the last question, which I believe is the NAV War answer, what IT opportunities are there for small business when the Navy is in the 4th iteration of NMCI NGen R of modify and upgrade?
That's a great question. I'll just read that from Kenneth Smith. So we don't run NMCI, we don't run NGen. That is the PMW 205 program office. We are obviously a stakeholder in that network, and yeah, I would say go to PMW 205. We are probably lagging when it comes to our network capabilities. I jokingly say it took a global pandemic to get our NMCI service providers to provide things like Microsoft Teams and to increase the number of VPN connections so people could telework, and to open the gates on allowing systems to whitelist to have access through a non-VPN portal. But really, the program office is PMW 205. The program manager is Captain Ben McNeil. I believe his formal first name is William. If you can help with IC needs and technology refresh, I mean, that computer alone is probably 3 years old, and I'm not sure it was brand new when I got it, when I came to NAVSUP. So technology refresh, infrastructure evaluation to make sure, you know, from the client desktop hardware to our main networks and everything in between, routers, switches, even cabling, is good and update and modern. I think there could be opportunities there depending on what that program office is doing. The challenge for them, in their defense, is resources are always constrained. So if they had all the money in the world, I'm sure they could use all the help that all our service providers and industry partners could provide, but they don't. And they ask for things, they don't get them from their resource sponsors, so they do the best they can.
Thank you, sir. I think that that takes care of the majority of the questions. There was a note as far as, hey, what about supplies on the weapon system support side? So if you have manufacturing capability that can support some of these aging platforms, please, by all means, contact myself and my team at Weapon System Support. My deputy there is Miss Annette Stevenson. We're always looking for additional suppliers for both maritime and aviation. And with that, I will kick that back to Ms. Washington. I think that's all we have.
Thank you so much. And thank you both Captain Cash and Ms. Finstermacher for joining us today. We will have an upcoming webinar next Thursday, June 25th, featuring the Deputy Director of the Department of Defense's Small Business Program, Mr. Shannon Jackson. Well, he'll talk about the cybersecurity Project Spectrum initiative. So keep in mind to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and follow our YouTube channel where we're recording all of these events and able to view it live, and we'll be sharing them on our YouTube channel. You can also join our webinars by logging in and registering via our website. Thanks again, and hope everyone stays safe and healthy.